Hi, I'm Peter Levine, the developer of Somatic Experiencing. In this instructional video, we will present the basic ideas behind this naturalistic approach to the transformation of trauma and the healing of stress-related disorders.
I'm Steve Hoskinson, and I train people, professionals all over the world, in somatic experiencing. You may not know this, but somatic experiencing is taught on every continent of the globe. It's taught to professionals from neuroscientists to psychologists to body workers, and every one of them is interested in the better working with trauma. Now, we understand trauma not only from the perspective of some kind of event, but we look at trauma from the nervous system perspective. And what we need to do in order to work with trauma, and what you can learn to do to work with trauma, is to see how this happens in the nervous system. See, the state of the art in terms of trauma treatment right now is exposure therapy. Those exposure therapies are largely based on content-driven exposure. We don't look at content per se, we look at the actual arousal cycles in the nervous system and train people to see the subtle signs of those activations and be able to work effectively with them.
When out of the blue we perceive threat, our bodies definitively react to protect ourselves. We do this with stiffening, with retracting. We do it with fight or flight. We do it with freezing or collapse. These emergency reactions are meant to be temporary. However, what happens in trauma is that our bodies and brains become stuck. Our necks and shoulders stiffen. Our guts go into knots. Our breathing quickens and goes in the upper part of our chest. Our heart beats wildly. Or, alternatively, we collapse into helplessness. These are all things that our body does immediately and instinctively to protect ourselves. To protect ourselves from the initial and the actual threat. However, when this reaction becomes chronic, we develop the debilitating symptoms of trauma. From this point on, our bodies continue to signal to our brains that we're in danger, and hence we perceive threat where it doesn't exist. Until we're able to change the internal sense of our bodies, we will remain traumatized because our bodies will be continuing to send that message up to the brain. In somatic experiencing, i.e. the experience of the body, individuals are guided to change their bodily experience, and in doing so, move out of trauma. They learn that they can shift from fixity and helplessness to flow, vitality, and wholeness. What you see illustrated in this diagram is the evolution of our nervous system's response to threat. The oldest survival system is the primitive, non-myelinated or dorsovagal system. 400 million years ago, it made its first appearance in the jawless fish, creatures that live on the bottom of the ancient ocean. The survival function of this system is the shutdown response to conserve energy. If we experience mortal threat, what we do is we lay low, we don't move. Our whole breathing, our respiration, our heart rate is decreased to just barely enough to survive. Next in the evolutionary timeline, to the reptilian period, the system that mobilizes vast amount of energy that are needed for terrestrial life, basically the fight or flight response. Finally, in the higher mammalian and primate species, a breathtaking refinement took place. The new addition for these higher mammals and primates is what Dr. Steve Porges called the social engagement system. The function of this advanced system is to seek safety in group affiliation. Often this is with face-to-face emotional contact. This is a further illustration of what Stephen Porges calls the polyvagal theory of emotion. The social engagement system involves the most recent parts of our brain in the prefrontal areas of the neocortex. As you can see from this chart, this system allows us to be in relationship, not just with members of the opposite sex, as in the illustration, but with each other. This system communicates with facial expression and with vocalizations that we make. So, for example, the soothing voice of her mother calms her upset baby. If the mother is unable to calm the baby, then the baby will go into a state of distress, the sympathetic fight or flight response. The fight or flight response involves a mobilization of our limbs, of our legs and our arms. And again, this is to escape or to fight. Then if this doesn't resolve the threat, or if the threat is perceived to be mortal, then the most primitive system, the system involved with immobilization, takes over. And as you see in the bottom part of the figure, this system shuts down our lungs, our hearts, puts our guts into overdrive. It overactivates our intestines and therefore creates symptoms of gastrointestinal distress. These are profound nervous system states, the states I've just described. We can't talk the person out of fight or flight or shut down. It has virtually no effect on those systems. We are able to get some soothing with our voice and with our facial expression, but once that has been hijacked by the sympathetic or the shutdown state, we lose what makes us the most human. It's through body sensation that we're able to actually move out of shutdown, move into arousal, fight or flight type states, and then return to social engagement. And the SE therapist helps track the client moving through these different states until they come back to relaxation and feelings of goodness and wholeness. Whenever we experience novelty in our environment, such as the snapping of a twig, our biological response is to orient towards, to locate the source of that novelty, and to discern what is the relationship it has to us. So for example, is it a source of safety, a source of food, a source of shelter, or is it a source of danger? And if it is a source of danger, well, what should we do next? In this video, you'll see an example of a herd of impala peacefully grazing on their afternoon repast in an uplands glen. Then suddenly, one member of the impala detects something, and you'll notice that. You'll see the ears perk up. They're trying to localize the source of the sound and to determine whether it's a threat. Now, when they do that, their posture also stiffens. And as their posture stiffens, the other impala pick up the same sense of novelty, of needing to scan, of trying to locate through sound, through smell, and to some degree through sight. They are hardwired to seek out what might have caused the first one's ears and the first one's body to change. So they're all starting to search. So because of this, you not only get one set of ears and nose and mouth, but a dozen. And so if one doesn't locate the source of threat, the other ones will. It's kind of like a hot potato that gets passed around. One animal perks up, then the other, and then others see those two, and then they perk up. Pretty soon, the whole herd is ready to take off, and they don't need to have the cheetah upon them before they make their exit. This is the fear arousal cycle. When we first experience novelty and orient to the novelty, then if we perceive threat, we become progressively aroused. And as the threat becomes more imminent, the arousal takes us into fight or flight. If we're unable to escape, however, that is to say, for example, somebody's holding us down and preventing us from escaping, then that induces a combination of fear and immobility. So the fear causes more immobility, and then the immobility causes more fear because we're held down and we can't escape. And fear and immobility feed on each other. And this is what keeps people locked in the trauma response. We'll see now some examples of the immobility response in animals. In the first vignette from YouTube, you'll see a dog moving towards an opossum. It's not really even threatening, but it's moving into what's called its strike perimeter, where the opossum knows instinctively that if the dog made a lunge, that it would be able to get the opossum. So it goes right into this immobility response. It appears as though it were dead. And the dog sniffs it and just goes off its way. Now, in the wild, say a coyote came to the opossum went into the immobility response. The coyote needs resistance to stimulate aggression and needs aggression to stimulate eating. If the inert opossum offers none of this, it goes off on its way searching for livelier prey. As I said before, immobility and freezing are time sensitive. So the animal goes into the immobility response, as exhibited by Brer Rabbit here. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like it's dead. It's in rigor mortis. But then after a period of time, it just flips over and off it goes.
Now he went and turned on me just as I shot, and I got him just back of the front shoulder. I got him in the ribs instead. But a big male like that should be okay. It's a good thermoregulating area. Hi! Get an animal like that, and he's just...
Still blinking there on
Yeah.
the sort of...
Oh, that's all right.
It's just
He's
perfect.
He's absolutely perfect. You see the size, he get a bit bigger neck and so on, yes.
Holy snapper.
He's about as big framed as you'll probably get. If you watch that animal after he finishes convulsing, you'll see, because he's aware of the fact that we're all around him, and it's a very stressful experience for an animal like a polar bear. After he settles down, and then he'll start doing a couple of deep breaths, and then he'll breathe really nicely, and it'll really... Now look, here he goes. See how he's breathing there now? You can see, so that even though it looks a little unpleasant to look at him convulsing like that, in fact, it lets off all that stress, and he then is able to relax and sleep the thing off.
If we are frightened and are being held down by somebody, it's the combination of the fear and the immobility that keeps us in the trauma response. And the key, actually, to coming out of trauma back into life, in principle, quite simple. It's to uncouple the fear from the immobility. You see, because immobility by itself is not intrinsically fearful. And in this next clip, you'll see an example of this, where a mother leopard is carrying her cub with her mouth, and you'll see the cub is just limp and is not at all frightened. As a matter of fact, people report immobility without fear is often experienced as being pleasurable, sometimes even profoundly pleasurable, almost blissful. As we begin to come out of the arousal state, we move towards the restoration of the active response when the person is able to go out of the immobility. When they're guided by the therapist to come out of the immobility and shut down, they move into a state of arousal which you can work with. This is the mobilization for fight or flight. So just as they come out of the immobility, they may feel the impulse to move with their arms and their legs as though they were running. And again, the idea is not just to voluntarily run, but to feel the running response, the fight or flight response from the inside, and being able to complete it in a way that feels successful and feels pleasurable and mostly feels empowering. In this video, you will see the distillation of 5 sessions of therapy work that I did with Ray, a Marine who was blown up by 2 explosive devices in Iraq. He served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And you will see how he moves from being really severely debilitated by PTSD and other issues to restoring his vitality and his purposeful direction in life. So, why don't you tell me, in your words, what kind of help you think you need, what you've been struggling with?
I'll say the biggest thing I've been struggling with was probably just PTSD.
Yeah.
Dealing with this really large crowd. This happened on June 18th of this year. And in the beginning, I had to kind of teach myself how to walk, talk, and think again. I guess every day it's been getting a little better, kind of. Now mostly I'm dealing with sensitivity to bright lights.
Yes. Yeah.
Lack of concentration. Headaches.
Now, you just said that you learned to walk, talk, and think again. How'd you do that?
I just fought for a lot of things.
Fought for a lot of things.
Everybody told me I would push things too much, but I just fought for everything that I wanted because I wanted to be able to. I don't like it when people take care of me. I can't stand that. So I mean.
You want your independence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted my independence back. It sucks at night. Really. Let's see. It sucks when it comes time to sleep with the fear of actually going to sleep and having a nightmare.
Yeah. The involuntary movements that you make with your head and neck like this, when did that begin?
I want to say like a month and a half after the blast.
The core symptoms of Ray were what was diagnosed as Tourette syndrome. Now, however, from my perspective, it was not Tourette syndrome, or it had the so-called Tourette syndrome had a very different way of looking at it. Here's the situation. You're walking along in a stressful situation, right? It's a war zone. And all of a sudden, there are 2 explosions. And they're so powerful that you're blown up in the air. Well, the body is trying to do 2 things, at least 2 things. One is to try to orient towards where that explosion is coming from, because biologically we're wired to try to identify a source of threat. Then, at the same time as that his body goes into a protective response. It's like a flexion response, the way a turtle pulls its head into its shell. And because this happened so fast, his nervous system wasn't able to integrate that. And so in a way, he keeps replaying that initial moment when there was the explosion. If you were able to separate them out, they're the very beginning of a turning towards localizing the source of the disruption. And then the body trying to protect itself, trying to pull its head in, trying to flex itself and make itself into the smallest target. And this gets stuck. The initial part, the shock part, has to be worked on first. Otherwise, if you were to work with the emotional part, you would very likely be actually just reactivating even further the shock reaction. And somatic experiencing differentiates between these two. I'd like to see if we can get you some tools so you can stretch this out so that these reactions are a little bit softer. Here's what I'm going to have you do now. I'm going to have you very slowly, very gently, opening and closing your mouth, just the smallest amount, and then come back a little bit, and then just go to where you feel a little resistance, and then come back a little bit. And as you do that, that will trigger those movements probably, but will also give you a chance to feel what's going on before the jerks, okay?
All right.
So let's just do that together, okay? Did you feel what happened that time?
It was just a tingling sensation in my body.
Exactly. Really good. You made the first step there. Okay? Okay. That's it. That's it. What did you feel just before that happened? Or just when that happened?
It's a weird tingling feeling.
That weird tingling feeling. Okay. And where do you feel the tingling?
I don't know, just kind of starts like in my entire body.
Okay. Okay. Keep on with this, okay? That's it. Stay with it. That's it, that's it, that's it. That's it. Wonderful. You got in under the radar that time. Did you feel that?
It was a little less relaxed or harsh.
Harsh. Exactly. Exactly. Noticing your fingers are a little bit warmer.
Mm-hmm.
And your jaw, face, and neck are quite a bit more relaxed. And your breath is a little more free, a little easier. Do you feel that? Yeah.
I've been able to kind of relax.
Kind of relaxed.
Yeah. Not so nervous about the crowd.
Well, but I think it's even more fundamental than that. I think you're just more relaxed. You know, sometimes on a foggy night, when the boats are coming in, the Coast Guard boats and the other boats, the foghorn sounds, and it makes a sound like something like this.
Feels kind of tingling.
Tingling?
Tingling.
Unpleasant or a pleasant?
Oh, feels very nice.
Yeah. I mean, you could see it was a nice tingling. Your face had a relaxed smile. Yeah. All right.
Kind of like I can feel my legs start to relax and just kind of goes up.
Fantastic.
Well, I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like a total relaxation kind of feeling.
Yeah. That's a pretty good description.
Because honestly, when I first came, my very first session, I remember in LA, I thought this was the dumbest thing in the world. I honestly, I was so resistant to it. And I was like, you know what, screw this. Let's put forth the energy needed for this to work and see where it goes. And the payout of this work, I noticed from the first session of my twitching was tremendously down. And I knew that when I would start twitching that I could just remember what he did in the session and do it on my own. That was something that he gave me that I could do without him being there. And I could not twitch as much. On Wednesday, I saw myself heading towards a 8.5, a 9 with the no pain idea. That was pretty cool. But honestly, that really hasn't changed. I could see the 8.5, 9. With Peter's work and with me continuing to do it on my own time, I could honestly see that. I would say don't stick with just medication. Don't think that completely numbing someone through medication is the answer. Look into other means of healing, because it's out there. You just need to look for it.
I hope that this brief video has given you an introduction to nature's lessons in healing trauma, that you've been able to see how what we can learn from the natural world and also about brain function really gives us a foundation, an understanding of how to help people move out of the horrifying, debilitating symptoms of trauma back into vitality, life, and wholeness.